Welcome back to the Museum Roadshow. We're continuing our stories with Alex Sahr with his experiences of being a part of a B-24 bomber crew in World War II.
The most exciting day of my life I want to share with you, and that was on D-Day. It was 11:30 at night when the assembly bell rang on the 5th of June, 1944. And when that bell rang at night, we'd never flown a night mission before. When that bell rang, we knew that D-Day had come. So we ran up to the hall, and sure enough, this was it. They wanted us to go to our airplanes, point the guns straight up, be ready to get strafed. If the Germans had advance notice on this invasion, to be ready. And we sat in those airplanes for 2.5 hours with our guns pointed up and nothing happened. And then about 3 o'clock, we took off and we kept circling around the island until dawn. And at 5:58 in the morning of June 6th, we dropped the first bombs on Omaha Beach. The Germans were fooled for a little while. They weren't there. But by the time we went back and reloaded and come back in the afternoon, the Germans had come with all their artillery. The boats were sunk in the ocean, and the beach, the Omaha Beach, was red with the blood of our boys that didn't make it. 4,000 boys we lost in 12 hours. There was 160,000 that crossed the channel that morning, and 4,000 of them didn't see the sunset that day. It didn't take long, and our troops were moving pretty good. They were moving right along, and the Germans, we were pushing them back, and we knew that if we'd have failed on that invasion, we'd have lost the war. That was the critical part. But Eisenhower, bless his heart, and God bless him, he had everything figured out right. He'd done everything right. And we're sitting here free people today because the war was figured out right, that we didn't lose the war.
I want to tell them about the Monte Cassino story.
Yes, do that.
My daughter took a trip to Italy a few years ago on a tour. And they were on a tour bus going up toward the mountains, and way on a high peak was Monte Cassino. It was an old abbey established by monks way back when. And when the invasion of Italy started at Salerno and Anzio, the troops got that far, and they couldn't get beyond there because all of the Germans had taken it over, and they controlled the roads, and they just blasted everybody. And there was a cemetery there, mostly British and Canadian soldiers, because the Americans were still fighting their way up. And my daughter read Alex's book, and she saw the Monte Cassino reference in that book. And she went back to her pictures that she took on that trip. And she had about a dozen beautiful pictures of Monte Cassino. Now this is 50 years, 60 years fast forward from the war. And so she blew them up. Alex is a little challenge when it comes to sight and hearing, so she made them big and plain. I took him over to show him the pictures. He looked at Monte Cassino and he started crying. And he said, "Just a minute, I want to get you something." He walked into his office, and he's got a picture frame about that big in there with all of his medals, and here was a little cotter key about that long on a string. He said, "You see that cotter key and that string? That was the first 1,000-pound bomb that dropped on Monte Cassino the day we raided it." Now you talk about a small world. Sitting at his kitchen table, looking at those pictures, and I'm telling the story about Monte Cassino, and he brings the cotter key. Yeah. I mean, it's a small world.
The cutter key was a safety device that it was, when the cutter key was in there, that bomb was not armed. It couldn't go off. It was, and then it was on a piece of wire. When the bomb dropped, the cutter key stayed in the plane and the bomb went below. And then there was a fan on the bomb that had to revolve so many times before it was armed again. It was a double safety, so it would get away from the airplane before it went off. So it was a double deal. They call it the arming pin, is the one I saved. And I knew that that was going to be a historic mission, so I saved that pin and put it in my stuff, and then I kept it. During the war, when the mass production of the B-24, they turned out a B-24 every 64 minutes. That's hard to believe, but that's what they done.
Join us next week as we continue our stories about Alex's experience in World War II, where he talks about the 10 crew members.